My name, as I've been introduced, Farai Dzike. Yes, I studied at VETS, but now I'm currently working at Durban University of Technology as a postdoctoral fellow attached in the Technology Transfer and Innovation Directorate Office. And I still do research. And on top of that, my job description, I'm an academic research commercialization assistant. So yes, I work with researchers and tweak their work so that we develop innovation technology or businesses or spin-offs or startups out of their academic research. I don't know if you are seeing my screen perfectly. There are a lot of things coming up there. But yes, so the title of my work I'm presenting before you today is the basic science and innovation to provide clean water and sanitation. So it's just a presentation that talks more about the advancement in wastewater treatment technologies. Ladies and gentlemen, you might be fascinated to know that here in Durban, it's one of the places currently experiencing a whole range of shedding, as we can talk about it. So we have got load shedding, we have got water shedding, we also have royal shedding, apparently. So on Saturday, we are crowning our very own Zulu King. You might want to join us, but if you are thinking of coming down to Durban, I would advise you to bring some fresh water. I don't know where you are going to get it. Because like right now, as I'm speaking to you, I didn't go to work. I didn't have the guts to bath. Because if I open my tap to bath, the stench of the water, the smell which comes from the water is unbearable. Whether you put your geyser on the highest heating rate or you take a cold shower, you are greeted by a very terrible stench of, coming from the water. And for those of you who are up to date with their current news, you know that most of our beaches here in KZN have been shut down because of high levels, extremely high levels of E. coli. We know where E. coli comes from. Raw sewage, which is ending up in our streams and directly into the ocean. So that has characterized KZN for some time now, to an extent that it's now it's just a little bit before it becomes a health risk to all the communities. So to speak, ladies and gentlemen, you notice that apart from the dirty water we have and poor technologies of cleaning, treating, or purifying the water to potable levels with high standards or quality of the water, we also experience extremely high temperatures to an extent that some of the little water we have in some of our streams, it actually dries up. And in the deep rural KZN, we actually experience annual crop failure, animals, domesticated animals and the wild animals dying from the heat we always experience. So if all those situations we encounter do not call for basic science, research, innovation, technology development, and taking the current water treatment technologies to advance the levels, then these problems we are talking about will be here to stay. But fortunately, we are going into different research and focus areas to try and come up with different technologies or advancing the current technologies so that we can treat water to better quality or bring it to potable levels that are standard or even high quality of them. So you will notice that the situation so far with regard to access to potable water is such that 1 in 3 people in the African region does not have access to clean water. And we are still experiencing things like population growth, urbanization, and increase in household and industrial uses of the water. So I don't want to touch the aspect of governance and management, lest I'll be summoned, but you can really see that all these parameters, they are not just coming overnight. They are things that develop over time. And if we are not proactive to respond to such kind of things, we will find ourselves in a situation where we are right now. So our biggest predicament here in South Africa is that our conventional water treatment methods were never designed to cater for the levels of contamination in our water, given that our sources, are our inland water reserves, rivers and streams. We don't really use water from the ocean. But now, because of this increased population and urbanization, the degree to which the very same water sources are contaminated have far exceeded the capacity of the current conventional water treatment methods to clean it to potable levels or safe potable levels. So what it means is that we are receiving water in our taps, which has got a funny smell, which have got a funny taste. It is even colored. If you look at it, you can see that it's brownish, and some of it's with even some algal particles which are still hanging in there. And on top of that, the infrastructure itself, it's so aged enough that the little attempt to renovate it or to replace it with new structures, it's way too expensive that it is not really sustainable under current conditions. So the basic problems we are saying recurring droughts and also heavy contamination due to the population growth, urbanization, and the increased uses of water in our households and industries. So you will notice that when it comes to industrial use, with advancement of chemistry and stuff, they are now producing a whole range of other chemicals, which the conventional treatment methods is not capable of dealing with. We are talking of pharmaceutical products. We are talking of cosmetic products. We are talking of new methods of making stuff. Like, for example, here in KZN, we've got most of the petrochemical purification plants, like the engine one. We've got the biggest engine petrochemical plant here. Last year, or last of last year, it exploded, spilling tons and tons of crude oil into the river streams. And it is slowly being spread out, and some of it has reached the ocean so far. So you can imagine the magnitude of contamination we have and how our ailing infrastructure will actually collapse at such kind of levels of contamination. So it calls for alternative sources of water or advanced technologies of wastewater treatment. So you'll see that the wastewater treatment plants, they use processes that try to clean the raw sewage, the primary effluent, the secondary effluent, and the tertiary effluent, and then even go on to try and deal with the sludge itself, and minimize the contaminants that are in the water that will eventually end up in the conventional water treatment plants. So are we winning in that regard? No, we are not. Why? Because of a number of factors, more of which can be pinned on the levels of technology we are using. And the greatest limitation so far being the energy input in the new technologies that are being developed. So for example, you see where we are talking of wastewater treatment, there is a technology called electrodeionization equipment, EDI. It is a very efficient technology. We don't have it here in South Africa, or where it is, I'm sure it's actually operating at very minimal capacity. The problem, like I said, it makes use of a lot of energy. So imagine we are already having load shedding, and then we pin our hope on a technology that makes use of electricity to purify water. Obviously, our priorities will be diverted, and yes, we end up delivering dirty water and pray that you don't pick up waterborne diseases. For your information, ladies and gentlemen, were you aware that 90% of patients lying in our hospitals in South Africa, their diseases or illnesses can be traced to the quality of water they use? You can find out about those facts. So you'll notice that these technology, in as much as they are efficient, they are able to break down a lot of substances in the wastewater, more especially the hydrocarbons, the nitrogen and phosphorus compounds, from the proteins and other industrial chemical products, which are discharged into the water. They can be removed using this electrodeionization equipment. And it makes use of activated sludge treatment using aerobic wastewater treatment processes. And its aeration stage is particularly, energy intensive. And as a result, it becomes very expensive, more especially for our poorly run municipalities, where monies are not prioritized to service delivery and other applications. And then also the use of self-respiring membrane aeration biofilm reactors technology is quite expensive, in the sense that the membranes have to be frequently removed and replaced. So you can imagine the downtime which is experienced there. I'm not going to go much into the thermal wastewater treatment equipment. You can see that it uses heating water, evaporating it, and condensing it, so that you do multiple processes in one stage. So the evaporation itself removes most of the suspended solids, it removes the dissolved stuff, and you just moderate the temperature at which you are evaporating the water, such that only pure water evaporates at that particular temperature, and then you collect it on a distiller. So the moment we talk of a thermal process, you can think of the amount of energy and the carbon footprint that comes along with that kind of a technology. So you see, there is another technology which tries to minimize the amount of energy. So it uses what we call a membrane bioreactor technology. And it is specifically designed for liquid filtration and separation processes. So it uses technical parameters such as microfiltration, ultrafiltration, nanofiltration, and reverse osmosis, you see. So now the same problem I have highlighted earlier on, that the moment we talk of filtration across a membrane, there is always clogging of the membrane surface. There is always a need for a downtime where you have to remove the membranes and either clean them or replace them, because most of these processes, they are not completely self-regenerating in terms of the mechanism of operation and the processing of the water through the treatment or the purification process itself. So you will notice that the filtration processes, as they make use of membrane as their major separation process, it complicates the whole mechanical and engineering setup, which compounded with energy, it becomes a very difficult process to maneuver. So I've just talked about this electro-iodide equipment, EDI, which is a high-tech water treatment technology, and it combines electrodialysis, ion exchange, and membrane separation. And yeah, in as much as it is quite efficient in terms of continuous water purification and no chemical regeneration, the challenge of energy and the challenge of energy and the mechanical applications makes it very, very expensive and not a priority or a technology of choice, especially where money is a problem. And another thing with this is that so far, I haven't seen where this technology is being used for large-scale operations like in communities. Industrial processes where they need ultra-pure water, yes, they can use it, and rest assured their products will also come at a price because of just water purification, you can imagine. So if we are to upscale the EDI technology and use it for our municipal water treatment, the water will become inaccessible, not because that it will be limited, but because of the cost of production of the clean water. So the pain of organic contaminants in the water we experience, you see that the first few things you observe is the bad smell and the taste, and they cause illnesses. And also, you know, in an attempt to deal with them, we damage our planet Earth in so many respects. So what it means is that if we are to stick to conventional treatment methods of the wastewater, it will leave a very large, you know, carbon footprint. And like I said, our current technologies, they only remove simple organics in secondary biological treatment. And the operations and the design of the current plants, they cannot deal with complex organics, especially from the pharmaceuticals, personal care, and processed waters. And more recently, you know, there was need to advance the technology so that it could deal with the coronavirus. And some of it was quite persistent and could not be removed. You know, here at Durban University of Technology, we've got an Institute of Wastewater Treatment Plant, and it was advising the National Coronavirus Response Board by taking samples of water from the sewage treatment plants and even at the clean water treatment plants. The amount of coronavirus they were picking up there was just astonishing to an extent that they could keep track of the hotspots by sampling at the source of the waters and measure the amount of viruses, the coronavirus in the samples. So you can see how emerging contaminants can actually put off the whole process, and the intended purpose of purifying the water is simply defeated by just one stubborn contaminant, which will persist throughout the whole process of the conventional water treatment. So there's a need for tertiary methods, even though they are expensive, but we've got technologies such as advanced oxidation, where hundreds of research groups are trying to use photocatalytic methods so that you can kill 3 birds with 1 stone. You can reduce the amount of energy you are using, as you'll be accessing energy directly from the sun, and you won't be using any chemicals to purify the water. And at the same time, it will be a cost-effective and a sustainable technology with a very positive environmental impact. That's it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm also involved in that race to try and find a hetero or a homocatalytic process of purifying water. So the technology we have developed is an add-on to the conventional method, it is not a freestanding technology. So meaning that the water has to go through the normal conventional water treatment process. And then as an additional unit of purification where you deal with the stubborn dissolved organic contaminants, we developed a photocatalytic reactor system or unit which can deal with these contaminants at whatever levels of molecular existence. So what we did was to convert titanium tetrachloride into titanium or titanium dioxide. So we fabricated the materials into nanorods and nucleate them in a hydrothermal process to produce what are called radially aligned nanoroutines. So the whole purpose of doing this was to increase the surface area over which these organic contaminants can be trapped and broken down through a photocatalytic process. So you can actually see that the catalyst is simply activated by sunlight, and there is this electrochemical shift that facilitates the photodegradation of the organic molecules, such that you produce, you release you break down these compounds into carbon dioxide and H2O, and there is no need for any further treatment after this process, such that the problem we highlighted earlier on of the bad smell, the bad taste, and the coloration of the water is all dealt in one step through the photocatalytic process. So you will notice that detailed studies of the nature of the catalytic material showed that it is stable, both chemically and thermally, and because of its stability and its electrochemical nature, it is very easy to manipulate the titanium dioxide and fix it in a fixed bed reactor, where you can actually use it as a catalyst in a process unit where you target those dissolved organics and purify them through a simple process. So in addition to its photocatalytic activity, you can actually load some active catalysts on this material, and on the active catalyst, you can actually grow carbon nanofibers, such that you have got a double effect during the purification process, where you are performing photocatalytic degradation on the surface of the titanium dioxide itself. The carbon nanofibers, which are also attached on the tips of the catalyst, they absorb materials and enhance the levels of purification. So like, for example, we know the textile industry, how much they make use of dye stuff, and the pharmaceutical industries where they use the dye and other molecules for drug delivery and stuff. So all those things where the titanium dioxide has failed to break them down, the carbon nanofibers will absorb them and assist to remove them from the water system. So detailed studies done at a PhD level showed that different active catalyst materials, can be loaded perfectly at selected sites along the radial length of the titanium dioxide that has been shaped into this dandelion structure or any radially aligned nanorutile. And if you analyze it, you can actually see the consistency of the materials in the catalytic material and how it performs thermally and chemically in terms of its stability, such that where you use it for the oxidation reduction and oxidation of the materials, you can actually see how you facilitate chemical reactions on the titanium photocatalytic interface, and their oxidation potentials and efficiencies that will lead or give an idea of how much you can actually break down all those materials. So this technology has been developed into a innovation technology which is being commercialized as we speak. So in other words, what I'm saying is that we have devised a prototype of this technology where we are using a fixed bed mounted into a laminar flow reactor, which just makes use of sunlight, so that as the water runs through this laminar flow reactor, which is meandering like this, pumped using a solar-powered water pump and pushed through this laminar flow reactor with a fixed photocatalytic material, by the time it goes out there, it will be clean water without any need for additional chemical treatments. Ladies and gentlemen, this technology, like I said, is being prototyped and scaled up so much such that currently we are at technology readiness level 5 of development. And yeah, just for interest's sake, we are seeking funding to scale it up and use it at an industrial scale at one of the municipalities we are working with as our stakeholder, on which we are doing our tests and applications. So for that reason, we are trying to bring an alternative solution to the current problem of water purification, despite all the technologies that are available. Given our situation where energy is a very big challenge, we ought to use alternative sources of technologies, like where we use this photocatalytic bed, which is an add-on technology. It is off-grid and it is non-chemical, and there are no any other byproducts that are produced. And for that reason, sorry about that. For that reason, we are forging ahead to make sure that we can apply this technology on a large scale and help municipalities. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Farai. That is a wonderful research that you're doing. Can I just ask, what is the availability of titanium in South Africa?
Yes, thank you so much. So you see, here in KZN in Richards Bay, last year, they commissioned a $250 million US titanium plant in Richards Bay. And titanium is not very expensive. It's quite cost effective that, a 25-liter container full of titanium, it costs a few hundreds of rands. So it is quite cheap and easily accessible. Thank you.
How bad is the E. coli contamination on irrigation water in your area?
Oh, thank you so much for that question. So you see, E. coli does have effect both on plants and animals. So where the E. coli is persistent, it comes in two ways. We know it's a microbial material, and once it infects a plant or an animal, it brings the whole range of diseases depending on the response of the crop. So like, for example, here in KZN, we've got the largest sugarcane fields, and E. coli is quite bad, like terribly bad in terms of the quality of the sugarcane we can produce. So like, for example, in Ilovo South, they have discarded the whole harvest as a result of the E. coli. If you read your news or you can do your research, you can tell, you can actually see the impact of the levels of E. coli on the crop itself. So it affects the quality of the sugarcane, and the sugarcane stalk itself, you can see that it is diseased, beginning to rot before it reaches its harvesting time. That's how terrible it is. So let me put it that way in short, but yes, it is quite terrible.